Assembly Speaker Robin Vos was on Upfront, the WISN TV program that is shown statewide on Sunday mornings. And once again, after the usual lines about whether he and Governor Evers can reach an agreement on the budget, he was asked about the big bloated boondoggle of Donald Trump's budget bill and its massive cuts, and asked if he was concerned about the cuts to Medicaid and SNAP food share benefits. And Voss's words, I'd rather just read them. I don't care to play the audio the way that he says it so dismissively. He says, "I'm not at all worried. I think there is so much hyperbole and exaggeration from my friends on the left. There are not cuts for anybody who's watching. There are not cuts in Medicaid. When they tell you there are cuts, it is untrue." And that's a line they continue to stick with, including Donald Trump, who promised in February during a Fox News interview, he said, quote, "Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched." One day later, he endorsed the House Republican budget plan that cuts hundreds of billions of dollars in Medicaid, more than $600 billion. And of course, they don't want to stop there. Ron Johnson has said as much. So have others. Kevin Cramer, the senator from North Dakota, said in one interview, "How much waste, fraud, abuse is there in Medicare? Why don't we go after that? I think we should." Senate Republican leader John Thune said, "I think anything that is waste, fraud, and abuse are obviously open to discussions." Which gets us to one of the main points of this program about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. You, dear listener, you are the waste that they want to cut because you are not a billionaire. And so the money that you pay in taxes that might come back to you through Medicaid or through better schools or clean air, they want that money going elsewhere to the very wealthy as a tax cut. Not coming back to you as some kind of tax rebate, but actually leaving you and going to people much wealthier than you. So who all is in this waste, fraud, and abuse category? Well, Wisconsin Medicaid Director Bill Hanna was also on Upfront on WISN. And here's one example that he gives that I think a lot of folks can relate to. Let's give a listen.
I think we can look at and think about who's going to be impacted by what's in the House bill. Let me give you one real clear example that somebody would not be excluded. We know that individuals 55 to 64 are the least likely to be working and on Medicaid, but that doesn't mean they're not contributing. You think about somebody who is caring for their grandchildren so that their adult child could work. We know childcare is a challenge in this state. That individual would no longer be eligible for Medicaid. They would have to stop caring for their grandchild and go find a job so that they can maintain their Medicaid. I think that specific, that detail is really important in this conversation instead of broad sweeping generalizations that nobody will get hurt.
Exactly, 100%. Bill Hanna, the state's Medicaid director, warning against broad sweeping generalizations. Because, again, when you do that, and you have, as a state report said yesterday, roughly 63,000 Medicaid recipients in Wisconsin would fall under these new harsher requirements for work or for reporting. Basically, it's all red tape. It's more hoops to jump through under the guise of waste, fraud, and abuse. But that's 63,000 people in Wisconsin in varying degrees of health or caregiver status or disability or whatever the case, that would either have to go out and find employment or would have to stop providing the care that they're providing or fill out even more paperwork online or by paper so often that they finally give up and they lose their benefits without Republicans actually saying that they're cutting the benefits. What Robin Vos and the others are saying to those 63,000 people on Medicaid in Wisconsin is you are all a bunch of lazy couch surfers and that you should get off your butt, put down the box of bonbons, turn off the soap opera, and go out and get a job, you lazy hippie. That is the message from Robin Vos. And he can say, oh, this is hyperbole and this is lie. He can say something's a lie all day long, except that he hasn't told you the truth about something. He hasn't shown you if you can actually cut Medicaid $600 million based on waste, fraud, and abuse. I would like to see that. Again, just show that to us. Don't give us one or two examples, because in any example of anything, you'll find somebody who is, wasting or squandering the benefits that are out there. That is not an example. Give us the example that amounts to, again, that much money being cut. Because if you can't, then you're kind of giving away the game here and letting us know that you can't actually show waste, fraud, and abuse. But if I show you somebody who looks lazy, if I show you somebody who looks scary, and I tell you just to multiply that by tens of millions, maybe you'll be fooled into thinking that we're actually cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. They're not. They're cutting you. You are the waste that they need to cut to help their friends.